let's kick it off. Talk about Another Man first.
Okay. I mean, I remember sitting on my living room floor and writing Another Man. And that was before we had started working on any other songs or anything. That was a while. That might have been, I don't think it was before I met you, but it was a while before, and I just kind of had it sitting around. And then we started working on songs, and I remember being like, hey guys, I have this song, and bringing it in as just kind of what it was, and just writing about, you know, sticking it to the man or whoever you've been with, and you're like, all right, you obviously don't get that I've moved on. But then I remember bringing it in to you and Joel, and then adding that verse. And I feel like that really filled it out. The verse that's, they say it ain't easy this falling in love. And that like completed the song. I kind of brought the bare bones of it. And
yeah,
we added the chant.
We added the chant too, which I really dig, which kind of rounded it off. I agree. But yeah, it's definitely sticking it to the guys, I think, or one guy in particular. I don't know who that might be, but
I didn't know at the time. I know now.
Woo! Well, you were ahead of your time.
Apparently. And then I remember Joel and I were working on it. I think you must have been on the road or something, because it was just Joel and I. And that's when we got the idea. We could not beat that mechanic next door to the studio. Everything they kept, every time we tried to record something, they were doing something. And then we finally got a moment, and we were like, wait, maybe we should ask them if we can use chains. They're a mechanic. So that's when we went next door to the mechanic and borrowed some chains from them. And Joel, I have a video of it where Joel is like doing the chain part and throwing it on the ground, and that made it just like really gritty.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. You're right. I wasn't there for the chain bit, but it was cool. Well, Joel always has great ideas like that. That's why he's very, very sympathetic to these songs.
100%. I feel like a lot of the songs are so different than the first album, but Another Man feels very similar to like Broken or Fiddlesticks, or those kind of like really like darker and just kind of minimalistic songs. I mean, it's a big song, but it's pretty simple in its structure and everything. So I feel like that kind of it's a nice intro to the album because it ties it back to the first one a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah. No, I like Another Man. And I think it's a good opener on the album.
Me too.
But I mean, if people think that the album is kind of all like that, they'll find out that it's not.
Yeah.
But any song that it would have started off with, then all the songs are different, which I really like. I don't
really like it too.
I'm not a big fan of having an album with the same song 10 times.
I think it's I think it's really interesting because they all flow together somehow, but none of them are alike at all. And they all kind of tell a different story. I mean, if you listen to the whole album in its entirety, top to bottom, which I did the other day, and I've been doing recently, but it's really interesting because each song kind of feels like this own like cinematic moment. It has its own, you can see like its own movie around it,
Yeah. Oh, that's a great thing though. I love that. I'm a big believer, as everybody knows, every song should stand on its own 2 feet. It should be an entity unto itself, which I think these are.
Agreed. All you need to know about Love. Do you remember how this started?
Yeah, I do. I know I know I was in New York. Were you in New York there when I started playing this?
I don't think so.
I remember being in New York, and I just loved at this particular time when we were writing these songs, it was, I was very aware that a lot of them needed to work with just a guitar. If we were going to play them live, it needed to be a guitar and two voices. So the sound from the guitar needs to be kind of really rocky, you know, to engage. And this was, this goes back to my love of the Stones and all that, just rock and roll, very early rock and roll. But once I had that, yeah, well, I remember us sitting down at my house later on, and we were just playing some things, and I played this, and we just took it from there. Because at the beginning it was just that riff, you know, the guitar intro, but then we just sat down and it just opened up and it just flowed as they all do, you know.
Yeah.
But I love this song in particular because it's kind of very poppy, but it's got a real edge too, which I like. Totally. I love that rock and roll edge. And you know, when we used to play when we did those shows, I always liked just rocking out with the guitar. You know, it's just because just the guitar, it's the only instrument with us, but nevertheless, it can be really full and big, you know, and it leaves a lot of room for our vocals to wander all over the place, which is really cool. And it's refreshing. You don't see much of that these days with people just using that one guitar.
Yeah.
Of course, in the very early days, years ago, when we saw Civil Wars, you know, that was a great inspiration, a major inspiration, you know. I mean, the sound they had was really cool. Ours is not like their sound, but at the same time, it's two vocals and one guitar, but it's in a different way. But I love that vibe. And all you need to know is really kind of simple, but it's really the vocals that sparkle for me. The harmonies we created are great. And that's what I remember about this track, you know.
Yeah, I think you're right with like the Civil Wars. I think the reason their vocals stand out so much, and I think it's a similar thing for us, is because the instrumentation is so minimal, and so you're able to hear those harmonies. And that's really what you and I have always been focused on, is like creating those like really cool, intricate harmonies. And so it's fun, even on a rock and roll track, to be able to like strip it down live and play with it and do these harmonies. And really that's, I mean, what the Beatles were doing, like their harmonies are incredible, you know, and all these, you know, so it's fun to throw it back to that kind of a little bit. And I remember you must have sent me the track. We must have started working on it, because I remember finishing these lyrics sitting in my car in a parking lot in Agora. And I think that you guys must have been doing a show in Agora, because
probably.
And I was thinking about, it must have just been the hook of it, but I was thinking about a friend of mine who, you know, it was one of those where it's like you see someone just moving way too quickly and you're like, buddy, slow down. Like, let me show you what you need to know, you know? Yeah. And it's just funny that's how I felt about going back to all these songs, to kind of look at those lyrics and kind of remember who I was thinking about or we were talking about at the time. And it's just, it's wild. But yeah, I do like this one and a couple other tracks that are, you put them on and you want to dance to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
And I'm very aware of that, much more than I used to be a long time ago. You know, I mean, the things, I keep saying the same thing, but just the guitar on its own can be really big and full. And that's really always my objective, to have that bed there, but for the two-part vocals, but the bed just is rocking just with the guitar, you know, and it's really very possible. And we do that. I remember being at a tribute and a lot of artists were there. I think it was a Brian Wilson tribute. And it was in Los Angeles, and Brian Setzer played a Beach Boys song. Yeah, it was for Brian Wilson. He played a Beach Boys song. He played Little Deuce Coupe, and he got up and he just plugged in, and he just one guitar, but it was just breathtaking. I mean, apart from the fact that he's an amazing guitar player, it was great just to hear the guitar, you know, and just him singing, just fabulous. So I'm a big fan of very minimal instrumentation. Live, certainly. I mean, we flushed everything out in the studio, and some of the tracks are kind of quite big, like Astral Love, but I like the little ones too, the small instrumentation tracks.
Same. Okay, do you want to?
All right. I was speaking of the rock and roll tracks. This is
exactly.
Yeah, it's the same kind of vibe, you know, just as simple. I remember, I think we were in my house again. I was just playing that little riff there, and then it just went from there, as most of them did. But I love this track. It's just fun, you know.
It's so fun. It's like it's a cheeky song, you know, and it's fun just because of that, you know.
Yeah, it's fun and it is cheeky. It's very suggestive if you want to go that way, but it's really cool. It's very lively and kind of very spring. And do you want to? Yeah, I love it. And of course, you know, the two part vocal is fabulous too.
Absolutely, and that's another one that you can like really, you can have the full like rock and roll band and make it this fun, you know, rock and roll electric guitar, but you can strip it down to an acoustic. And it's so fun to do live, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, that's what Of Eden is all about, is the vocals and the guitar, you know, and you know, what more do you need with songs like this? It's a great song and it's really fun, you know, and you got to have songs like that, you know, not serious. I mean, there's serious songs on the album, which we'll get to in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent.
That's an easy one. Twisted Story.
Ooh, Twisted Story. I love this song from the very beginning, you know. I thought at the beginning you were kind of resisting it a little bit because it was very synthy. You know what I mean?
I remember, I think it was around the time that we were doing Treasure. And because I remember you being like, I just discovered this really cool synth sound, and we were going to use it for like, I think the Parrots song in Treasure.
Oh, yeah.
And then it looped back around.
Yeah, that's right. It was all a sequence sound.
I think it must have been around that time. And then, so I was like, I mean, it could work for that. I don't know. But, and then this song totally changed for me, and I love it so much.
Oh, I do too. What shifted for me? I mean, I always loved it. Was the bridge where you talk about walking on the opposite side of the street, on the other side of the street. So it's got very much a little bit of black, white, brown, yellow people. Just it doesn't matter what color we are. You know, it's all we're all the same. And that's what I love about it.
When I was listening to it the other day, knowing that we were going to talk about it, it's interesting how relevant this song is now, and we wrote it 5 years ago, you know, and it's so relevant because we say, you know, will we ever walk together? Can you meet me in the middle? You know, it's like, and that's it's so important right now. And you're right, when the beginning is like got this synthy weird thing going on, and it's so interesting and cool, and then it totally switches gears, which is awesome. It's fun when that beat kicks in. It goes boom, can you meet me? And you know, and it's so it's just again, it makes you want to move.
It's a really beautiful song. It ended up originally, like you're saying, just being like a little synth groove, but then it just opened up like a springtime flower, and it's just beautiful. The bridge is great, the chorus is beautiful, and you know, it certainly passes the goosebump test. And it's got a great message that is very relevant now, you know.
Absolutely.
Cool.
It really does. All right, the man of the hour, the big kahuna, Astral Love.
Oh yeah.
This song, I mean, really, this song started all you. I mean, I remember when you played it for me, and you told me the idea that you had and the story that you had about this warrior woman, you know, and
that's right. Yeah.
I think we were at the studio at your house, maybe. But I just remember picturing this woman, this like almost like Wonder Woman-esque, you know, running this.
Yeah, yeah.
The visual was so clear to me when you described it that when we started recording it, it had no choice but to be this like massive cinematic song.
Yeah, it had to be that way. She was a warrior woman, you know. I had this vision of a campfire at night with all these Celtic warriors sitting around, and it was on the eve of a big battle. And I don't know why this came in, but it was kind of dusk, but in charge of all the warriors was this woman instead of a man for a change, and she was just really strong. And that's the image I got, and that really never came alive till I remember we were in the studio and we were describing the song to Joel, and then he came up with these big tribal drums.
Yeah.
And I remember when he put them in, and we went, whoa, and that was it, you know, those big drums, and I just wanted to hear them all the time. But it's a great song, I think. And
yeah, and when he added the
funnily enough, it
swells,
starts off. Yeah, and we also played that. It's called a Nashville tuning for the guitar players listening. It's just a 6-string, but it's just tuned differently, and it's like a 12-string with just the octave strings. It's kind of weird, but it's beautiful. And funnily enough, the guitar I played that on, which was my old Gibson. I only have one Gibson guitar, and it's that one. It's been in that Nashville tuning since then. I've never moved it, you know. So, of course, the only thing I can play on that is Astral Love, but it's really simple to play. But I love this track, and I think you know, calling the album Astral Love is very cool. It was a good idea because that's really what it's all about, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, but I love this track. Yeah,
I love it so much, and every time I hear it, I just picture it so clearly. I see that story that you told. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see it so clearly, and when we got into the studio, you know, we didn't have obviously like those chants or anything, and I think you or Joel were like, all right, we should add like a chant or something, and I just blurted out some random thing.
That's right.
Yet it feels so familiar. It feels like this is their language, you know, this tribe, and
that's right. And maybe,
you know, it's their war chant or something, you know, and it's
I'm sure it was a war chant. I mean, we were definitely tuned into it, you know, which is the great thing about songs. Once you tune into a song, especially a song like this, of which the subject matter is a little different, you know, we're talking about a warrior princess from, you know, thousands of years ago. There aren't that many songs that deal with that subject matter.
Right.
So you really have to get inside the song and imagine and think about the vision and where you are with it. And it's like you're saying around a microphone, and suddenly you blurt out some kind of war cry, and I remember that very well. And then we just took that and enlarged upon it and started double tracking it until in the end you've got this whole tribe of warriors just singing. And wow, what a great picture that is. And I hope when people listen to the track that they can get that image, you know.
I hope so too.
It completes the journey of the song for me anyway.
Absolutely. Cool. I think the song itself just paints that picture so clearly. I think people will. I mean, I hope they will. But and like you said, calling the album Astral Love, I feel like it's just a powerful thing. It's just a powerful energy that the song possesses. It was like there was no other way, you know, to do this album.
I agree, because that Astral Love itself, that even those two words, reflects what the album is all about, reflects all the other songs. Because, I mean, let's face it, most songs are love songs. They're about love, certainly. Not just these, but most songs that people write they're love songs. They may not even realize it, but they are. I mean, what else are you going to write about? You know, gardening or, you know, whatever. But yeah, I love that track.
Yeah. And it's a love song in itself, you know. It's a woman fighting for the people that she loves. She's willing to, no matter what the space or time, she's willing to always fight for them, you know. And that's really the idea of what Astral Love is that no matter what space-time continuum you are in, you're connected to another person. And in this case, she's connected to her people, you know.
Absolutely. And it's another kind of love. You're right. It's not between two people. It's between her people. And Twisted Story is about all people. Yeah, so it's very deep, you know.
It is.
We're getting very deep now, but it's a very deep song, you know.
It is. Well, and then now we really get into the deep songs. Now we're into Don't Ask Me.
Oh, wow. Yeah. This is such a lovely song, you know.
This has been one of my favorites since we wrote it.
Yeah, I remember sitting at my house, once again, just playing around with those first few opening chords. But I just loved it, and I love the Blue Jean Baby bit too. You know, not simply because of what it says, literally like a blue jean baby, but that really, it shows you the picture. But the way you sang it was just really cool. It's just really lilting, and it pulls you in. And at the same time, people listening to it, they're gonna get that same experience, because when you're singing that Blue Jean Baby line, I'm playing something very unusual on the guitar at that split second. And I'm also going, there's that phrase, I'm going, ooh, and those two together just create this magnetic pull, and it just pulls you right into the song. And it's just lovely. I remember too, the original song was quite long. And I remember resisting when we were in the studio. Not resisting, I was questioning, because I think you and Joel were saying, "Oh, we need to cut it down a bit," and you were quite right. But then I thought, well, we're going to lose the bridge in the middle. But we were doing that, I think, twice, which was too long.
Yeah.
And then Joel added the piano. Joel played the piano on there. He said, "Let's put some piano on." Because originally it was just that guitar, which is the way we played it live. And it's just beautiful. But the piano was really lovely too. But I must say, I was sitting there in the studio and I thought, oh, I think this is wrong. We're cutting it down. But then it took me a while and I came around. I thought, yeah. And it's the perfect length now. But it's just beautiful. And I must, without tooting your horn too much, that the second verse in particular is just so beautiful, you know, because you really got inside the lyrics and the song, what it means. And well, we both did, but from your point of view especially, you just sang that it was just beautiful. And I remember in the studio when we were just sitting there, we were all on headphones, and you sang, and I went, oh wow. It's that factor sometimes you hear on different songs of other artists, but it doesn't happen very often, where you hear something and you go, oh wow, I've just got to listen to that again. You know, there's just different things going on, but when they're all together, it just creates that beautiful moment in space that you can just savor, you know. And this song, just beautiful. And I remember too, because we played this a lot when we were doing live shows, and people would come up and say, wow, I love that song, that Don't Ask Me or something. Yeah, it's just a beautiful song. But what do you remember other than what I just said?
Actually, everything that you just said is so vivid to me around this song. And I think the reason for that is because I don't think there's a person on this planet that hasn't felt what this song is about. And when you're saying, like, don't ask me to fall in love again, because we've all been burned, we've all hurt, and then all of a sudden you're standing across from someone and you know, like, uh-oh, you know, it's I'm afraid it's going to happen again. And it's such a great feeling to fall in love, but it's terrifying, you know, and you know, your Blue Jean Baby, it's just like this, someone who's so almost like, the Blue Jean Baby to me almost paints this like innocent picture of someone, you know, you imagine just kind of like a really innocent girl, a woman, and she's been hurt before. And I just remember singing it. And I think probably, you know, like, thank you for what you said. And I think that the reason that I connected to it so much vocally is because I felt it, you know, it's one of those songs where you can write a love song, you can write a song about breakups, you can write a song about happy and whatever, but it's the songs when you really feel that emotion that, you know, the mic picks it up instantly. And for me, and this is kind of a, you know, a nod to Joel. When I met Joel, it was the first time that, you know, I've recorded with amazing people and friends, and I always feel great, but with Joel, there's a certain safety when I'm in that room with him, and you as well. I feel like we can play and explore and open up, especially with more emotional songs. You know, there have been times when Joel's been like, okay, let's turn off all of the lights and it'll just be you in the dark singing, so you can like really get to that moment. And that's not something we necessarily did with this song, but just kind of painting a picture of the type of producer that Joel is. And so I think with this type of song, it really allowed for that. Just being, I don't think we would have gotten that had we done it with someone else, you know. And
oh, I agree. Yeah. I mean, every individual takes, certainly with the producers, they take it in a certain direction that they're familiar with, or the path that they've already carved out. They go down a certain path, and everyone is unique and individual in their own right, and they go down a certain path. But and you have to be prepared for that, you know. And Joel goes down a certain path, but it's always different. It's always different, and that's what's exciting about it, you know. It's funny being in the studio with Joel a lot, and I know we've both been in there a lot with him. It's sometimes, you know, when you got a new song and you're playing a new song, you go, okay. I mean, I always think, God, I hope I'm going to play it the way I want to. I hope he's going to get it, you know, even with just a piano and a vocal, or a guitar and a vocal. I hope he's going to understand it, and he always does, you know. Always, which is kind of cool, because when you're playing a brand new song in the studio, and we've done it often, you're kind of wearing your heart on your sleeve, and you're bearing everything, and you're going, well, I think this is a great song, but are other people going to think that, you know? Is there enough in there for people to engage to? And so it's part of that whole process, really. But there was a point with Don't Ask Me in particular, I thought, where I thought we were going to lose it, you know. But I think that was my hesitation when it started to go into its new form. And I thought, God, I don't want to lose this song, because there's always a danger in the studio. The greatest song that you may have, there's a danger that you're going to lose it for no particular reason. And that has happened. It's happened very infrequently in the past. But I remember sitting there thinking, God, I don't want to lose this song. It's not going the right way. But then suddenly it went through this chrysalis, and then the butterfly opened up, and I got it. I went, oh yeah, it's still there, you know, because all the key little things that make a song great, in my opinion, are that Blue Jean Baby moment, and then when you go up at the end, you kind of let loose a little bit, which is almost like the woman's desperation in this relationship. You know, she's saying, don't ask me to fall in love. Well, really, she's saying, I'm falling in love, so be nice, you know.
Yeah.
And that desperation really is like the cream on the cake at the end. Cream on the cake, is that new? Well, icing on the cake.
That's, you know, honestly, that's one of my favorite vocal moments to do. And when I go, don't ask me to fall in love again.
Yeah.
that, I think that's kind of the part you're talking about, but, and it gets a little bit more intense, and I, like you're saying, I think that's when it's like, she just opens up. And I do remember cutting it, and there's always risk in that. There's always risk in pulling back, and Joel's good at that. Joel's good at taking stuff and going, pull back a little bit, shorten this, you know, turn this, and there's always this like terrifying moment of, like you're saying, like, is this gonna just ruin it completely? Is this not right at all? But with this song, I think the simplicity really wins on it.
Yeah, I mean, but unless you take it to the edge and you're prepared to jump off, there's no point.
Okay, Wait for Me. Talk about a tearjerker.
Yeah, this is, if you don't listen to them for a time, you don't forget them, but you realize how beautiful they are. This is just a beautiful song, you know. And I remember once again sitting in my lounge room at home, and we were just playing. We just were playing it, you know, and very simple song. But then we had that idea of like the soldier away. You remember that? We had the idea of the soldier being away, and
I feel like
he or she is saying, "Wait for me."
Yeah, I think that's something that you and I do really well, is that you'll start playing or whatnot, and we'll get an idea for a story, and then somehow both of us just jump on the same train, and the story unfolds. And I remember this one so specifically about the soldier, and we debated whether or not it was like he or she was at home waiting for their, you know, and it's both ways. It's the soldier waiting to come home, and it's the person at home waiting for them to come home. And I remember us talking about how we don't know if this soldier is still alive, or if this is like something where this soldier's passed on, and it's saying like, wait for me on the other side, you know. And when we added the horns on there and really went into the whole military or militant you know, sound, that, I mean, I have chills right now thinking about it, because it makes me want to cry, because I think it's just so beautiful. And even if it's not about a soldier, even if you just relate it to yourself, just saying to anyone, you know, wait for me, and if it's someone that's passed on, you know, and wait for me on the other side, I think it's so beautiful. And I do remember being in the studio, and then kind of getting to the end of the session and listening down, and all of a sudden feeling like, wait a second, there's got to be this extra moment when I do the when I kind of do the step out at the end, when the bigger vocal, and it's please wait for me, wait for me, wait for me. Yeah, that part, it's like that to me was like it needed to happen. It's like all of a sudden that's like the big cry moment in the song, where you know, the person is just like, please, you know, it's like, please just wait for me. It's like the begging moment.
Yeah, you know, the image of the soldier, be it a man or a woman, was the perfect image for this song. And I think once we figured that out in the story, then it was easy. Then the song just fell out. But, you know, as we always say, there's got to be a story in a song. It has to be a story. There's got to be a beginning and a middle and an end in every song, even if it's super simple. And this story was a very powerful one, I thought. But once again, it was a beautiful symmetry between the first verse, which I sang, and the second one, which you sang. It was so beautiful. And, you know, once again, I was just sitting there going, wow, this can be something very powerful, you know, this song in particular. But yeah, I love this song. And I think if people listen to it, it's going to end up being a classic song. And I hope it does, because it deserves to have that. It's just a beautiful, beautiful song, you know, and so simple. And I remember too, when right before the out chorus, because there's no bridge in this song. And I remember we were talking, saying, God, we need to have a bridge in there. But sometimes you don't need a bridge in a song. And I'm beginning to think that more often than I used to. If you've got a beautiful verse and the choruses, you don't really need a bridge, you know. But this didn't need one. It just kind of comes to a slow stop. Then suddenly the brass comes in, and you got the out chorus, and it just gives you more of what you want to hear, which is that cry from the woman, you know. Yeah, very cool. Very deep.
Beautiful song. It's a beautiful song.
It is. I hope people that get the album really sit down with the album and listen to it in its entirety, and on some good headphones or a good sound system, because sonically it's beautiful too.
It really is. I mean, it's a beautiful album regardless, but if you listen to it and you really just, songs like this especially, and you're just kind of enveloped in it, you know, the whole sound, like you said, sonically, it's so big and so all encompassing, and between the vocals and then just like the little intricacies here and there, it's really just a beautiful listen.
It is a beautiful listen, and I think people need to do that more than they have been doing. You know, just take time and sit down and listen to some beautiful music. I mean, this certainly, but there's a lot of music around that's really beautiful. You know, just sit down and smell the roses for a bit, especially in this time where we are, you know. And it's interesting, you touched on this earlier, that it's not weird, it's interesting that this album is coming out now, even though we started it, I don't know, was it 3 or 4 years ago?
It was like 5 years ago.
Oh my God. Because it wasn't meant to until now, but now I think it's going to be even more relevant than it would have been then, you know.
I agree.
And it really is. It's time for this now. It's time for beautiful music and for people to listen and to come back with each other, you know. It really is time. And that song in particular is ripe right now. It's the right moment, you know.
I agree. I think a lot of these songs, it's the right moment for them. And like you're saying, I don't think it's not often that even I sit down and listen to an album top to bottom anymore. You know, it's kind of that age has passed. And I think that right now it's so important for people to connect to story and to connect to something other than, you know, to take a moment and to just, like you said, stop and smell the roses and press pause and not worry about the outside, but at the same time let story and let music and art of any kind really kind of bring you back to, I think what's really beautiful about this time is that I think no matter who you are, you're kind of being brought back to like the basics. You're being brought back to simplicity and stopping and just watching the world go by. And I think that there's so much music and art and everything out there that we just click and you know, kind of wait for the next thing to come along. And right now we have the time to really sit and appreciate. And the one thing that's really connected everybody in this time is that there is still art. You know, there's a global pandemic happening, but we're able to still share music with people. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, that art never goes away. You know, story never goes away. And it can teach you, it can remind you, you know, like the songs we were talking about earlier that are so poignant right now. We wrote those 5 years ago. We had no idea that they would make, you know, potentially have the impact that they do now. They wouldn't 5 years ago, you know? And so we can learn from the art that we're consuming and placing ourselves in the middle of, you know?
Absolutely. I agree completely. We have to, humankind has to stop and take note of everything, you know, and watch the world go round and remember where we are in this time and what we're doing and who we love and what we love. You know, it's very important to think about that, especially now.
We get to You Really Want Me.
Oh my.
The cheekiest song of them all.
It is very cheeky,
fun.
yeah.
This was a fun one to write.
Yeah. This song is very cool because it's just a really kind of brash statement, you know. But for me, this song is having a go the people. I remember, in particular, we were at this time we were talking about a talk show, and you said they just go on and on, but you were saying, oh, are they prattle on and they keep talking about themselves, and they think they're great, and they butt in on conversations when they really shouldn't, and they're just talking about themselves all the time. It's all about them. This song, for me, is about that. It's kind of, and in the end, they're saying, you really want me, right? You still want me. So it's all about them, about the other person, which is kind of interesting. That was my take on this.
Yeah, like we said, we wrote this like 5 years ago, and I think what's really interesting is that was kind of the era of when like reality TV and social media. I mean, I think it was really when like Instagram, Facebook had been a thing, but like Instagram was now a thing where it was all about themselves. It was selfies and pictures, and we say, and all the photographs you take of you, they're becoming quite the bore. It's like, I remember having that discussion of like, get on with it. There are things happening in the world that like we need to look at rather than just ourselves always. And we also talk about, politicians and really, same thing. It's like the media, whether it's the political media or the entertainment media or personal media that we're putting out, it's like there gets to a point where it's just like, it's by saying like, you really want me, baby, it's like, but you're not going to get me. Like, you're not going to, this is almost like saying like, you can keep trying, but I'm not going to buy into everything that you're selling, everything that you're saying, because not all of it is fact. And especially with social media, not everything that 99% of what people put on social media is some fallacy. And so, it's not real. And even, even the nighttime news, it's still entertainment, and so they have to, there's an entertainment factor. Politics nowadays it's entertainment. I mean, we have the most entertaining president. I'll let you decide that's good or bad, but like, it's entertainment. It's not even about politics.
It is,
It's just, and so it's, for me, writing this was just fun to say, oh, and I love the line, you keep on flogging that old dead horse, but he don't love you anymore.
He doesn't love you anymore.
You can keep beating me over the head with this. You can keep talking about the same old crap every day, but I don't care. I really don't care about you. And
and he still doesn't love you.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great lines in this. The one I saw a rich man, incidentally, who could be anybody. He stood there waving to the poor, like loving everybody. Hi, I love you, all of you. But he doesn't love you anymore, and he really doesn't. And insert whichever person you want to insert in that verse,
It's, again, how relevant of a song, and you just, I mean, it was relevant then and it's relevant now. And, but it's a fun, it's, it kind of takes the album back to like the fun beginning that we had with like the rock and rolly stuff, it swings back around to that. And I think it's just like a fun way to comment on the world, to poke fun at it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds great with the rhythm section, and it's still very sparse. It's just guitar, bass, and drums. But it was cool too when we used to do it with just the guitar.
It was so
very
fun.
Cool.
I mean, and that's fun for us on stage too. It's a fun dynamic to play back and forth during that song. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's it's fun. Yeah, it's funny because now I think, we did not a lot of shows, but we did a few shows. But now I would approach it a little different. I would have even more fun with it now.
Same.
You know what I mean? Now I'm a lot more confident with just the two of us up there, because it's not easy to engage when there's just two of you. But now I think about it, and although the shows were great, I would say to myself, and I do, oh, next time I would do that, or I would do that, or I would run around the stage or do something. Yeah. And you know what I mean? Just make it a little more entertaining from my perspective.
I agree. I mean, I think
all right, let's go ahead.
When we were doing the shows originally, we were still kind of sussing it out and figuring out what we were doing, and it was kind of still so new to us. And And these songs have really grown over the last few years. And every time I revisit them, you're right. I think like, ooh, I would totally do this on stage, you know, and have that moment, or even play the piano, you know what I mean? Bring in another aspect. So yeah, it's fun.
It's cool.
I wonder.
Ooh.
This was the last song that we wrote for the album. It's not the last song on the album, but it's the last song that we wrote. And this was such a quick process because we had the 9 songs and we said, you know, we should finish it out. We should round it out to 10. And we were at Joel's and we said, all right, let's write something. And I think within probably 30 minutes, we had this song done, as far as writing the entire thing. And just, I remember you sitting down, playing that little bit on the piano, and immediately I heard the with you line, the chorus essentially. And, and then,
that's right. Yeah.
And I think too, this song in particular, lyrically, when I was writing, I remember sitting down to write the first verse of it, and it was just kind of what was going on in my life at the time. And it, you know, and I think again, it's one of those songs that like everyone can relate to, in that we've all been in that relationship where you get to that point and you go like, there's so many questions, but we can do this together. You know what I mean? It's, I wonder these things, you're questioning these things, but like, those questions are irrelevant because we can attack them. We can figure this out together. And I think that that's like the best part about love, is that, you know, you've got a partner and you can do it. And no matter what comes your way, a global pandemic, perhaps, and you can figure it out together. But it was a quick process. And it just kind of was simple and beautiful. And I think it's a really beautiful song to round out the album.
I think this song has a very big chance of becoming a classic song, and it really deserves it, because it's just very simple. And I remember thinking too, this song needs a bridge, but it doesn't have a bridge. And I remember Joel saying, I don't think it needs a bridge. And we just but we played the chorus in a different way. Well, we stopped it. We stopped all the instrumentation, and it was just a piano at the end. Remember that? And it went, oh wow, that's beautiful. It doesn't need a bridge. You know, some songs don't. They just don't. And this is one of them. I think I'm the new anti-bridge person now.
Sometimes I get it, because I think sometimes, like, when the momentum is there, you know, in the song, like the story, you don't need you've already said what you need to say, you know, the story is already there. And at that point, it's just kind of letting you almost like relax into what's already there, as opposed to introducing a new idea.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
And I think too, what you were saying about it, you know, being, you know, a long-standing hit. I think usually the songs that are the easiest and simplest and come the most quickly are the ones that are the most honest, just because it's at the surface and you get it out, whatever's there. And then that, I think that's why it lends itself to being something that has legs to stand on for all time, because it wasn't something we fussed over. We didn't think about it too much. We just wrote honestly, you know, and we wrote it so quickly, and we didn't question it, you know, and even questioning whether or not to have a bridge on it, and even the instrumentation on it. We didn't try and make it something massive and big. We just said, let's strip it down and keep it simple. And I love simple.
Yeah, cool. But that only leaves us with So Long, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, one more, So Long.
Yeah.
What do you remember about writing this?
I remember recording it in the studio with Joel, and he he just started crying profusely. I don't know if it brought back memory of something in the past for him. Obviously it did, but I remember he couldn't really operate the machines. He was just crying, you know. And I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "This song's really getting to me." And
yeah,
that went on for quite a while, you know. It's just a beautiful song. Yeah, I can't remember the place, the first place. I just remember being in the studio.
Same. I'm trying to think, and I don't really remember sitting down to write it. It must have been at the studio or the house, I guess, but I just remember getting to the line where we say, "I wish this was the day we met," you know, again. We've all had that moment where it's like, you know, this is goodbye, you know, this is the end, and it's something that is special, but you wish that you didn't have to say goodbye, but you know that you have to. And I love the line. I really love the way that we did it in you singing the verse and then me taking my own, because I think it really speaks to two different, the way that we wrote it. It lyrically, it speaks to the two different perspectives that people have in a relationship. And I think, you know, when I come in and say, every time we've said goodbye, I never meant to make you cry. It's like, you don't want to hurt someone, you know? And again, this is another song that's just, I think, really honest. And that's probably why, you know, it moves me when I hear it, but why when Joel heard it, you know, for the first time, that it moved him so much, just because it is so honest and it is just there, you know?
Yeah. It could also be so long as goodbye, or it's been so long. So there's two ways of looking at it. I look at it the goodbye way. And is this the last track on the album? At this sequence? It is? Oh yeah. Then which is it needs to be. So it's whoever's listened to the record, it leaves them hanging out to dry, you know, saying so long, it's been great, but it's over, you know. So what they have to do then is put the album back on again.
Exactly. Exactly. I think
it's a great song.
Beautiful. It's another classic. It's another just beautiful tear jerker.
It really is. It's a beautiful song, and the vocals incredible. All the vocals are.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very cool. Well, I think we did it. Yeah,
wonderful.
That's great.
I can't believe, I'm so excited that we're finally,
yeah. All right, I'll talk to you soon then.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.